Amjambo watazamaji wa Chiamero TV. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're watching our channel and subscribing to Chiamero TV on Facebook and also Chiamero TV on YouTube. This is Fireplace. My guest today needs little introduction. A top lawyer, a top legal mind, a scholar, an intellectual. I wish to welcome you to Fireplace as we interact with one and the only Muthomi Thiankolu. I am very sure you have watched him represent his client during the just concluded BBI case at the Court of Appeal. And I'm also very sure you have watched him during the 2017 election petition at the Supreme Court. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of Wakili Daktari Muthomi Thiankolu. Wakili.
Yes, Godfrey.
Welcome to Fireplace.
Thank you very much.
Asante. Wakili, I am 100% sure
Yes.
your journey did not begin at the corridors of justice.
Yes.
At the apex courts in this land. You have a story to tell us. You have a journey.
Yes.
Kindly tell us, hii safari ilianzia wapi? Karibu.
Thank you very much and welcome to all the viewers. My name is Muthomi Thiankolu.
Yes.
In many ways, I love to see myself as a son of Meru.
Yes.
Because of what I usually call a triple heritage.
Okay.
I was born in the year 1980 in a place called Kenjai, which is just a few miles from here. Then I went to a school called Kenjai Primary School. That's in Tigania West constituency.
Okay.
I stayed in that school in my formative years up to standard 4. Then I went to a school called Kibuline Primary School, where I did just 1 year
Yes.
and 1 term.
Yes.
Then crossed over to Tigania East in a school called MCK Kiriene Boarding Primary School, and that's why I started my KCPE.
Yes.
From there I went to yet another school in Tigania called Miadhene Boys Secondary School.
Okay.
Sometimes when they want to embellish the name of the school, they call it a high school. But actually the official name is Miadhene Boys Secondary School. I was lucky to perform very well in my KCSE
Yes.
in the year 1999. I managed to get a A-,
Yes.
and I was only the second person in the history of that school to have gotten that type of grade, especially and in particular under the 844 system.
Yes.
That earned me admission to the University of Nairobi, where I was initially called to study mechanical engineering, and I actually attended the School of Engineering for about a semester.
Yes.
But then I found it was not my type of thing.
Yeah.
And time permitting, I will tell you how that revelation came.
Okay, so Wakili, Wakili, you're saying even during your high school days, you never had intention of studying law? Just
I didn't. I think my teachers, one of them called Ms. Kirika had always urged me to study law.
Yes.
And their thinking was that because I was always in drama, music festivals, I was always representing the school.
Yes.
In debating competitions and whatnot, that law was my natural type of course. But then I had what you would call maybe the curse of success. That although I had only A- then, my grades were not so far apart, and I was eligible to do virtually any course except medicine.
Yes.
And I believe electrical engineering, but all the other courses,
Yes.
I was eligible. And I think being very young and naive at the time, and being so spoiled for choice, I wasn't even sure what I wanted.
Okay.
to do, and that's how I think I found my way
Yes.
in the School of Engineering.
Okay.
But then I was lucky to discover before it was too late
Yes.
that it was not my type of thing. And luckily the university has this framework where you're allowed, if you don't like the course to which you've been called, to shift to another course, and that's how I shifted to law school.
Okay.
So I joined the law school at the University of Nairobi and graduated in the year 2005. After that I went to the Kenya School of Law for about a year.
Yes.
And I did my pupillage that time with a law firm called BM Musau and Company Advocates.
Yes.
Pupillage is a program where after you have obtained your law degree and the postgraduate diploma from the Kenya School of Law,
Yes.
you are required to go and sit in a lawyer's office,
Yes.
accompany them to court, assist them in drafting, assist them in legal research,
Yes.
and basically you're supposed to shadow, for lack of a better word,
Yes.
to shadow that lawyer in everything they do,
Yes.
so that you learn now the practical craft of practicing law, because it's a very different thing,
Yes.
learning law in a lecture or classroom setting and actually stepping on that court
Yes.
and representing a client or sitting down to advise a client.
So at that particular point now you started loving what you started doing now?
I actually loved law from the very first day I stepped into law school. I think I took to it like a fish to water,
Okay.
which only confirmed what my father and my teacher had told you,
Yes.
Ms. Kirika had always told me, that if I wanted to drive, then law was the natural career for me.
For you.
So I hit it off immediately. I landed on law school and I've never looked backwards
Okay.
ever since. And if I were to repeat my life again,
Yes.
I'll still be a lawyer,
You'll still be a
because
lawyer.
I've now discovered that is what I was really meant to be.
Yes.
So after becoming an advocate, that
Yes.
is after finishing pupillage,
Yes.
I went to work briefly with the Law Society of Kenya
Uh-huh.
as an intern. But it was not a job that was aligned with my career goals. So I shifted to a law firm called Mohamed Muigai
Uh-huh.
Advocates.
Yes.
Now Mohamed Muigai is one of the biggest and most prestigious law firms in Kenya.
Yes.
It is owned by Professor Githu Muigai, who
Yes.
I think requires no introductions, and a gentleman called Mohamed Nyaoga.
Yes.
So it is really at Mohamed Muigai that I cut my teeth, so
Yes.
to speak,
Yes.
as a lawyer. And if there is any entity I really owe everything I know about the practice of law,
Yes.
and how to run a law business, it is the law firm of Mohamed Muigai. They were very kind to me.
Yes.
The partners treated me more like one of their sons. And I think it's because one of the partners and my father had been classmates way back in high school.
Yes.
So we had this sort of father-son type of mentorship. But more importantly, I was entrusted with very, very big briefs
Yes.
for the who is who at the very highest levels.
Yes.
If it was the World Bank and Mohamed Muigai who are representing them,
Yes.
I'll be entrusted with handling that file. If it was the Court of Appeal, those days we didn't have a Supreme Court, and it was a weighty matter, then Mohamed Muigai would place it on my desk.
Why do you think they trusted you with such huge legal cases?
I don't know, but I would want to believe it is the spirit I brought to the job.
Yes.
Generally speaking, I was entrusted with assignments that many lawyers take even 20 years without playing at that level.
Okay.
And yet, when I arrived at Mohamed Muigai as a kid straight from law school,
Yes.
I was given all these huge files, involving billions of shillings, involving very huge stakes.
Yes.
Advising, as I told you, the who is who, not just in Kenya, but across the world.
So we are talking about a young lawyer who was a performer?
Yes, I was only 27 years old at that time. There was, of course, a lot of mentoring required and a lot of hand-holding. But the point I'm trying to make is I was lucky to be put in a law firm. There was no micromanaging me. You know, people have all these fun ideas about young people. But what really made the difference for me, for lack of a better word, is that Mohamed Muigai threw me right in the deep end. And if I may tell you how it would work, we would have a huge case, maybe advising the president, maybe the permanent secretary, maybe the United Nations, maybe the government of Kenya. And Professor Guido Muigai or Mohamed Nyaoga would, you know, work with me, ask me to prepare, leading me. And when we went to that court or whatever forum it was, they always ensured I was given a chance to address that forum. And sometimes they would deliberately, Guido Muigai is the one who had a more dramatic way of going about it. He would suddenly tell me on the morning in question, young man, I woke up under the weather. Can you pick your file and go? You recall that story in the Bible about this guy who was hoping for some assistance to be thrown into a pool. And he was stuck there for that 8 years because he was fixated with the idea that someone must hold his hand and throw him into the pool. But at Mohamed Muigai, really, the training was pick your mat and go, pick your file and go. And that's how I gained the courage. My very initial cases, just in the very first weeks of practice, were against lawyers like James Orengo, against lawyers like Feroz Naroji. And these are really the legal maestros, not just in Kenya, but in the region.
So these are the people who mentored you to be the strong legal mind you are today? Yes.
And at Mohamed Muigai, I initially stayed only about 6 months before I got a Commonwealth scholarship to study for a Master of Laws program at a university in Britain called the University of Warwick. Now, this is one of the top 50 universities in the entire world. So it's a very prestigious place where you find sons of presidents, of prime ministers, and really the who is who across the world. Now, this was a very competitive scholarship. Even today, the Commonwealth scholarship is still one of the most prestigious anyway in the world. And at the University of Warwick, where I was admitted, they were actually only offering 6 such scholarships. And for their School of Law, because I was going to do a Master of Laws program, there were only 2 slots for that scholarship, with applicants from all over the planet. You know, you can go to Brazil, to Canada, to India, to Australia, New Zealand. And somehow, you know, this young boy from Beo or Kenya, if you like, or whatever.
Interacting with...
I was able to somehow win this scholarship and go to a university that I would never have afforded. Even if we had raised money from my entire clan, there is no way I would have, you know, raised enough to secure such a generous and prestigious scholarship. And when I got for this scholarship was so good that, you know, all my expenses were paid for. And in addition, I was paid a monthly allowance, translating that time in the region of 92 to around 110,000 Kenyan shillings every month. After all my meals, my clothing, my accommodation had been paid for. And I got from that school, we had students from around 150 countries in that program. I was doing a program in international economic law. And this program is about looking at law from a multidisciplinary point of view, and specifically blending insights from legal scholarship with insights from the discipline of economics, and more importantly, how the countries that make up the world relate economically in terms of trade, in terms of bilateral investments and whatnot. So in this class, There were, I told you, students from about 150 countries.
Okay.
And I emerged one of the best.
The best.
Because there were only 6 distinctions from the class of 2009, which is the class I attended. And I was one of those 6.
Yes.
And the distinction was the very highest you could get. So I went back to Mohamed Muigai, where I was given a promotion. And now not just made an employee, but promoted to a salaried partner.
Yes.
They opened a whole new department, and I had lawyers who are now under my supervision in that department for legal consultancy.
All right.
And we did very many projects for NGOs, the government of Kenya itself, for international organizations like the World Bank and whatnot.
Yes.
And I was only about 28 this time now, running a whole department at the best law firm in the country.
Yes, yes.
And paid fairly well, very nice perks. And while at Mohamed Muigai, now that I had gotten this scholarship, the idea came that I should somehow, having been so lucky to get such a prestigious scholarship, to study at such a prestigious place, that I should somehow give back to the community. But you see, I had no silver or gold that I could give back to the community. And the idea that crossed my mind was that maybe if I took up a teaching job at the local university, then maybe I would share some of the insights I gained in my LLM program. So I approached my employers then, Mohamed Muigai Advocates, and I told them that I was toying with the idea of taking a second job while still working with them as a lecturer at the University of Nairobi School of Law. And surprise, surprise, they had no objection. Gidhu's exact words, if I recall, were, you know, when I look at you, young man, the path you're following is the exact path I followed to become what I am. And if you want to be, to straddle both legal practice and academia like I do, I'll be the last person to stop you. So go apply for that job. As long as your work in the law firm is not suffering, we will not ask any questions. So suddenly now I had 2 jobs. As a lecturer at the University of Nairobi School of Law, and a partner at Mohamed Muigai Advocates. And still while at Mohamed Muigai Advocates, when I joined the University of Nairobi School of Law, I'm sure you're aware it is the leading law school in this part of the world. And I met all these, very accomplished scholars, and most of them were my teachers anyway. Before I went to Warwick and whatnot. So in the university, I was now the youngest person those days, who was a member of the academic staff of the School of Law. And slowly started emerging that, just like in our community, if you are a little boy, you cannot have a strong voice in affairs of the society. And their forums you'll be excluded, so that the elders or the initiated morans or whoever. I discovered that the university without a PhD, you're really a nobody. Because you meet in this forum, people are called Professor so-and-so, Dr. so-and-so, Professor so-and-so, and then you're the only person who has no whatever, and even if you have good ideas, they may not be taken with the seriousness that they deserve. So the idea then crossed me that I should enroll for a doctorate. And again, I went back to my employers then, Mohamed Muigai, and they were very happy about it. They agreed to be my recommenders for that program. And that's how I enrolled for a PhD, which I graduated, I believe, last year in December. On the 9th is when I earned my PhD in law. Now
you are Wakili, Dr. Muthomi Thiankolu. How was life growing up?
Godfrey, I was born that poor. I was born to very young parents. My father was still a dependent and a student. My mom was barely 18 when I was born, and both of them came from families that were in the situation you would call abject poverty. So my early childhood especially was characterized by all the deprivations you can imagine. Sometimes missing a meal, sometimes wearing torn clothes, I grew up in a mud ward house with a grass roof. Went to Kenjai Primary School for 5 years on barefoot, sometimes on patched and torn clothes. And in summary, to cut it short,
Yes.
I grew up the typical Kenyan village boy.
Yes.
Because of the circumstances under which I was born and the poverty, I was tossed from one house to another.
Yeah.
I grew up in 5 different houses. At one time under the care of my great-grandmother.
Yes.
At another time under the care of my paternal grandparents. At another time under the care of my maternal grandparents. At another time under the care of my mother and a stepfather. And for the better part under the care of my father and a stepmother. And there is a way, therefore, even from my family background, I'm a child of very many houses. And it's okay, I'm happy with it. Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Did this affect maybe your dream of what you wanted to become?
My childhood was always characterized by this obsession to ensure that my adulthood was not characterized by the sort of poverty and other difficulties that came with the situation surrounding my birth and my both parents being from very humble economic backgrounds, because it's only much later, now after my father had finished college and settled, that he was able now to take good care of me and take me even to now decent schools like Kiriene boarding and Meavene and whatnot.
Yes. So, Wakili, abject poverty to becoming the top most sought after lawyer in this country.
Yes.
Can you tell us what are you doing currently?
Now, right now, I'm running a law firm called Muthomi and Karanja Advocates.
Yes.
And it's one of the upcoming and most respected law firms. We deal with very many weighty matters, as anyone who is familiar with the legal goings on in Kenya would be aware.
Yes.
I am also teaching at the University of Nairobi School of Law. I've actually been teaching there since the year 2011, so this would be my 10th. So
you are a lawyer who is a scholar?
Yes, I'm a lawyer who is at the same time a scholar. It's not an easy path to walk. Many people struggle with that balance.
Yes.
And I must tell you, even me, I struggle with it.
All right.
Yes.
So it's challenging?
It's very challenging, but it's also doable. Yes.
It's doable?
Yes.
Yeah, where do you drive that kind of, spirit?
It is from a consistent, and persistent desire to always work out for better days, for a better future. And for me, especially when I'm able to help clients resolve a problem, you realize nobody sees a lawyer for a cup of tea or for some fun moments. Usually when you go to a lawyer or a doctor, it's because you're in some sort of pain or uncomfortable situation. And for me, what gives me greatest joy is when after the ups and downs, the twists and turns, we're finally able to help our clients to resolve a problem that was otherwise giving them sleepless nights.
Yes.
Yes.
Wakili, you are now a household name in Kenya.
Yes.
And this is because of the cases that you have handled that are of quite big magnitude.
Yes.
We are talking about the just concluded BBI case the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
In 2017, we are talking about a case on a presidential election petition.
Yes.
What does it take to handle such a big case?
Now, the first point to note is unless you're really good at your game, no one is going to entrust you with cases that require that level of responsibility. And the only way you can be good in whatever craft, whether it is law, whether it is engineering or whatever, is to have a lifelong commitment to excellence, to becoming the very best. When I go to speak on motivation forums, I always tell young men and women that they should strive to be the first among equals. If say you're a journalist like you, and someone comes from Greenland looking for the top journalists?
Yes.
Would your name feature among the top 10 so that they will tell them, go see so and so?
Yes.
If someone comes from China looking for a good engineer, looking for a good nurse, looking for a good lawyer. So for me, my life has always been characterized by a consistent and persistent struggle to ensure that I'm always first among equals, that if anyone comes from, even from space, and what they're looking for is a good lawyer, that somehow it doesn't matter who they ask, whether they ask a Kikuyu, whether they ask a Muzungu, whoever they ask, they will, if they ask for a list of top lawyers, I've always strived to ensure that my name will somehow be in that list. And of course, it's all by a dedication to excellence, diligence, being forthright with people, being honest. It actually doesn't take many things that are different from that which everyone was taught by their own mother. Honesty, forthrightness, hard work, industriousness, you know, diligence, attention to detail. There is no magic about it. It's just about you being committed and persistently striving to be the very best you can be in life.
All right, Wakili, you're telling the people of Kenya it's the desire to become the best.
Yes, it's that desire. Let's call it an obsessive desire. It's not just a desire, you know. It's easy to desire anything.
Yes.
The point is not the desire really, but desire coupled with persistence, coupled with deliberate effort, deliberate strategy. To be a good lawyer, for instance, requires a lot of reading. It requires that you pour through very voluminous documents. If you go to the place you found me, I'm sure you've seen documents running to thousands of pages. And of course, not many people find any fun. Reading is not funny. You know, it's easy to go to a disco and dance yourself lame. It is easy to go and look for women. It is easy to go and take alcohol. It is easy generally to go and have fun. But for you to be a professional, not just in law, but in any career that is first among equals, that is a sought after name, then there are many opportunity costs, and those opportunity costs will really come in the form of having to forsake, you know, fun and nice times and just lazing around.
So, Wakili, you're saying the reading culture in Kenya is costing most of the young people?
Yes, and for law school, those who want to be lawyers, unfortunately, the time for you to build a good foundation to be a good lawyer is when you're in the university. Unfortunately, under our system, where law is a first degree, in many countries we do law as a second degree. So many people go to the university when it coincides with their youth. It is this competition between going to a nightclub, going to a disco, going to have this or other sort of fun. Law school tends to coincide with that, and the people who become good lawyers, in my experience, are the ones who look foolish to their age mates because they are not going out. They are always in the library. They are always in wherever. I mean, you'll be the laughing stock because you have no girlfriend, you have no this, you have no this. You're really missing out. But then people realize too late in the day that if I had put those hours in the library as a young man or woman, then I would have developed the core competencies, because law is a generic craft. Once you get to know the core skills, the practice is only applying those skills in diverse contexts. And at the university, what you learn is doctrine and theory, which helps you then to think in a particular way. You know, there is a way doctors think, there is a way engineers think, there is a way lawyers think and analyze issues, and you cannot develop that, unfortunately, if you just passed through law school. And there are very many people who claim they're in law school, they just passed through law school.
So your reading culture, you maybe being keen to detail, is what has propelled you to...
You have to be very, very, very keen to detail. There is no way you can be a successful lawyer if you're a person who just gives things a quick look, who paints broad brushes. And I don't know whether your time permits, you know, me to give you examples. There are many matters I've done where everything turned on attention to detail, and more importantly for lawyers, not to take anything as for granted. Let me give you the topical issue of the day, BBI.
All right.
a lot of people thought that the president could spearhead a popular initiative, but no one bothered all this time to pick just the ordinary English dictionary, the Oxford one, to see what is the meaning of a popular initiative.
All right.
And if they had done something that simple, they would have seen that such an initiative or such an endeavor is one that is spearheaded by ordinary citizens who don't hold any public office.
So the word popular initiative,
yes, the phrase popular initiative
was the deal breaker.
Yes, that, but you see the way English works and the way our culture is you take things for granted. Right. If you check all the good lawyers, there is nothing they just accept on face value. Even your name that you're Godfrey Mutiga, they will, a good lawyer will say, can I see your ID? Can I see your passport? They will not just take it for granted that, you know, and if you were arrested now and they say this is Godfrey Mutiga, would want that established first that it's Godfrey Mutiga and not his long lost brother or his lookalike and whatnot. So law is about being inquisitive and about being ready to go beyond the appearances and beyond surface.
Wakili, I think you have touched a bit on the Building Bridges initiative,
yes,
the BBI.
Yes.
And you are one of the top lawyers who represent and, you know, all who are against the Building Bridges initiative.
Yes.
I would like you to tell the people of Kenya, why were you against the BBI?
The reason we were against BBI is very simple.
Yes.
They documented a mixture of poison and sweet things. And what the promoters of the BBI were doing was to show you the delicious part of the regimen without telling you that what lay at the bottom on the sediment was something very toxic. So the promoters were saying all these things like increasing allocation to counties. They were talking about, you know, empowering the youth. I don't know, a moratorium on payments of higher education laws board, whatever, and very many things that nobody can contest that they are good things. But then what they were not telling you is what were the bad things. And in summary, to me, what was bad about BBI is that it was seeking to reincarnate a monster our country went through a very painful experience through called the imperial presidency. If you come with a tooth comb, which comes to the details I told you, you would have seen that most of the amendments were crafted in a way that is not immediately obvious to a casual eye, but when you check it keenly, you realize it was seeking to you know, heap more and more powers on the institution of the president and weaken oversight agencies like Parliament, like the Judiciary, like the Constitutional Commissions. We had all this unfortunate history with our police force, which we even renamed the service. We gave the command to the Inspector General, then gave the policy and oversight to the Police Service Commission. You find BBI was reverting us to the old system. We got away MPs from being cabinet ministers. BBI was returning us to that. In the current dispensation, we have an arrangement whereby the National Assembly vets people who are appointed to various high offices of the state, like permanent secretaries, cabinet secretaries, ambassadors, and whatnot. And BBI was again getting rid of all this. The BBI people were being told by politicians, if you read it against the part nobody was telling you about, you realize that if you're being told to take a sweetener together with a deadly poison, how does it matter that the sweetener is sweet if you die anyway? And for us, we saw BBI as an attempt by dark forces that have always held this country at ransom since the colonial times to stop the country from taking off in terms of good governance, in terms of good checks and balances. That's the only reason we were opposing BBI.
All right, Wakil, so this has nothing to do with judicial activism or something?
No. Now, the phrase about judicial activism, in my view, is raised because people do not understand the structures of our government. The way our government system is set up is that it has parliament, which is the legislature. It has the executive. Executive is the government the way the Mwananchi knows it. The chief, the county commissioner, the police, the ministers. that wing of government called the executive, its mandate is to make and implement policies.
Yes.
The role of parliament is to make laws.
Yes.
The role of the judiciary is to interpret laws and give them meaning, and not only give them meaning, but give them meaning in a way that is sustainable, that enables a country to be coherent, to be cohesive and peaceful.
Yes.
In other words, if you and I started fighting for this table,
Yes.
and you claim it is yours, I claim it is mine, the duty of the judiciary is to ensure that that dispute is resolved in a manner that is civil, that doesn't allow or encourage either of us to resort to violence as a way of resolving the dispute, or to resolve to other methods of resolving the standoff that is not sustainable. So when people say our judiciary is activist, my own view is that it is a misunderstanding, and because the judiciary is tasked with deciding all disputes that have a legal character, whether they are disputes between citizens like you and I, whether they are disputes between agencies of state like parliament and the executive and whatnot. And to me, the judiciary was just doing its job. And those who are unhappy, luckily our judiciary is structured in such a way that if there are mistakes, remember judges are human beings. Just like you and I, they also make mistakes. They misunderstand things. And where that happens, there is a structured mechanism for ensuring that people do not build unnecessary tension or resort to extra legal mechanisms because a mistake has been made. And that's why our judiciary is hierarchical. Moving from the tribunals to the magistrates to the High Court to the Court of Appeal, all the way to the Supreme Court. The idea is if a mistake is made along the way, it will somehow be corrected by the time the matter goes to the apex court.
So as currently constituted, you believe the judiciary is independent?
Our judiciary is independent, but that independence has been at a huge assault. If you look at the history of our country, the colonial masters here in Meru, we had a guy called Kaangangi. He was not responsible to anyone. He was not accountable to anyone. His word was law, and nobody asked him questions. If he just demarcated your land and allocated it to himself, you not do anything about it. And unfortunately, when we got the political independence, most of our systems remained intact. And there is a sense in which most of our government institutions lack something I call legitimacy. They are built on the colonial edifice, and therefore they are anti-people. They are anti the ordinary citizen. So for me then, the question is, what do we do when a dispute arises? And what should the judge do? And my understanding is that the role of a judge is to diffuse these tensions, to help the country move forward. Unfortunately, if you have a system like the one we had in colonial times, which is largely still the system in place, it is a system that benefits a very small clique of elites. And those elites, of course, the Constitution of 2010, the key agenda was to reconfigure Kenya and to re-engineer the governance structures and apparatus. And they lost out because now we have all these values and principles of governance, transparency, public participation, all these things you hear in our Article 10 of the Constitution. And when you see these assaults on the judiciary is the weakest link against corruption, or rather the judiciary is this, what you're not being told, just like you're not being told the other part of BBI, is why these people are saying these things, because the judiciary is standing in their way. You have grabbed this land, and the judiciary says no, under the new constitution you can't do that, the land is to go back to the public. Now, an ordinary person will not grab this land. It will have to be someone who is perched very high in the structures of either national or county government, someone who is very rich, usually not because they invented anything or because they manufacture anything or they are very good at whatever they do. It's because they were just abusing their proximity to the instruments of power and the state. And you don't expect such people to be speaking very highly about the judiciary when the judiciary's mandate is to ensure there is good governance. It's just like you don't expect a thief to be talking very highly about watchmen and police officers. So I can tell you that our judiciary is in many ways independent, to answer your question.
Yes.
That doesn't mean our judiciary is perfect. It has very many imperfections. There are judges and magistrates who are not independent for various reasons. There are judges and magistrates who are corrupt. There are judges and magistrates who are lazy.
Yes.
There are judges and magistrates who are incompetent. But I can tell you, because I interact very closely with the judiciary in the course of my professional work,
yes,
that those form a very tiny minority.
Wakili, in your line of duty,
yes,
you are a top lawyer, top legal mind.
Yes.
You know, you actually, as I put it, you are sought after.
Yes.
In most of these big cases. What are the challenges? Do you sometimes receive most probably threats to
yes,
your life or something?
There are very many challenges to being a good lawyer.
Yeah.
One of them is our society has very many misconceptions.
Yes.
Against lawyers, and I'm sure you've heard all manner of jokes and perceptions about lawyers, and it takes a lot to persuade people that you're actually an honest person and you're just doing a job.
Yes.
Just like the doctor is doing their job, just like the engineer is doing their job. The other challenge is because of the first point which I have told you, societal perceptions about lawyers.
Yes.
Most people are not keen to pay their lawyers. I'm sure you have attended an Arambe to raise medical fees. I'm sure you've had people take a loan so that they can pay their contractor and the engineer and whoever.
Yes.
But you've never had anyone who took a loan to pay their lawyers for their legal services, or you never had anyone who was calling his friends to raise money because they need to engage their lawyer. And so that's the second challenge. The third challenge is law, and I believe even medicine.
Yes.
You generally deal with people who are at pain, who have a problem. So you're not meeting them in their best shape, you're not meeting them in their best moods, and it is stressing. There is a way that that unfortunate situation that forced them to come to your office.
Yes.
If you're not careful, then it can also affect you. Number four, it is very demanding. To be a good lawyer will require lots of research, lots of typing, lots of drafting. You have to go out there, persuade a judge that I can give you an example.
Yes.
You know, whenever there is a matter that has legal connotations, especially for public law, which is the area of practice,
Yes.
you will find society has its own perceptions. Again, giving you the example of BBI.
Yes.
All the MPs thought BBI is good. All the MCAs, they passed it, you know, in lightning speed and whatnot. And I'm sure if you walk across the country, there are many people in their thousands who still were cheering on. And the challenge for lawyers is then you have to be this guy who, unlike Pontius Pilate, who is happy to fence it and wash his hands and somehow leave it to the mob, to the lynch mob, to say this is the direction. So as a lawyer, you may have to stand against convention. You know, you have to stand up, represent a guy who is accused of murder, who is accused of robbery, who is accused of rape, who is accused of stealing an election, who is accused of, I mean, we can count the accusations until the sun sets.
Correct.
And then your challenge as a lawyer is that often you will be standing against a mob that is baying for blood. We want him crucified.
Yes.
We want him crucified.
Yes.
And what a lot of people don't understand is that if only the mob stopped shouting, let him be crucified, and actually give him due process, you might even discover that you're holding the wrong thief. This is not the guy who stole whatever you're chasing after. Basically, if you're not a well-rounded person, it's very easy for the work-related stress to push you as a lawyer into alcoholism and other forms of destructive habits. So you're saying, personally, you have not ever received any threats to... No, I have. Oh, I can't even count them. Many times, especially when I'm doing these cases, you find your phone is been hacked by the intelligence service or
Yes.
the CID. They're listening to your conversations. Sometimes you find you're being trailed by people and you don't know whether these are security people or criminals. Let me give you an example that happened in this Meru.
Yes.
When we were doing the case between Kilemi Mwiria and Peter Munya,
Yeah.
a lot of the supporters from both sides, you know, they don't see you as a professional. They see you as either Munya's lawyer or Kilemi's lawyer. And there is a time I parked my car in this city of yours in Meru.
Yes.
And when I came, somebody had cut the tubes that carry the brake fluids, and I was lucky to realize it before I drove the car, because otherwise I would have crashed and probably died. And I'm sure this person was doing this because they saw me now as a lawyer studying between their favorite politician and their high office. Lawyers have been killed in the line of duty, sometimes by persons aligned to the adversary of their client and whatnot.
Yes.
So it's a high risk job, it's a high stress job, it has very many threats. But then when I faced these challenges, one of the conversations I had with my parents, they asked me, which is the job you would do that has no threats, that has no, I mean, if you become a surgeon and you're operating on someone and they have this deadly disease and the scalpel accidentally scrapes your skin, and now maybe you have caught a deadly virus or whatever. I mean, that's a risk. Whereas the legal career has very many threats, very many challenges. I see threats and challenges as a characteristic of virtually every job that you take up. If you're an engineer doing a multi-story building and that crane falls and hits your head, you're gone. So
Sure.
yes.
Sure. Wakili, so lastly, what is your advice to young upcoming lawyers?
Aim to be first among equals, which is my way of saying, whatever you set out to be, if you set out to be a lawyer, please don't be another lawyer. You know, Kenya has 20,000 lawyers. If a client has to instruct you, they are choosing 1 out of 20,000, and you know that number can only keep growing. It actually grows by about 2,000 every year. So then the challenge for any upcoming lawyer is, why would it be me? If someone has a matter as weighty as the BBI, why would they come to look for me when they have 19,000 and some 999 people? They could. And for me, the answer to that question is always, what sets you apart? And speaking for myself, my trump card has always been, we do our job every assignment, like our life depends on that assignment, like that assignment is the very last I will ever do, and it's the one that will define my legacy. If you approach your work that way, each file like it's the alpha and omega of your life, then you'll definitely be a sought after lawyer or engineer or doctor, or whatever you see, you know, you set out to become.
Wakili, it's been a pleasure hosting you on Fireplace.
Asante sana.
This is a real inspirational story.
I think the privilege has been mine.
Yes. And we hope this inspires even the young upcoming lawyers and even the young people and even everybody in Kenya, because at Fireplace we just sit down and listen to stories that inspire. It's been a pleasure hosting you.
Asante. Asante sana.
Our viewers, Chiamero TV, this has been Fireplace, hosted by Godfrey Mutiga. See you next time.